Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Noreen. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. FBI searches Pence's Indiana home in classified docs probe. Pence subpoenaed by special counsel probing Trump. It just rang. In crisis, US-China hotline goes unanswered. In GOP-held Florida, Biden vows no cuts to Social Security. Senator John Fetterman remains in hospital undergoing tests. Tyre Nichols' documents says officer never explained a stop to him. Suspect in custody after two Maryland police officers hurt. Black lawmakers cite racism as Missouri House OK's crime bill. Oldest schoolhouse for black children in US moving to museum. Rihanna promises a jam-packed Super Bowl halftime show. Rescues in Turkey offer moments of relief in quake aftermath. Russia hits targets across Ukraine with missiles, drones. Zelensky tells summit no place for Russia at Olympics. Seoul lifts visa limits on short-term travelers from China. Building collapses in northern Egypt, 6 killed, 27 injured. Bomb hits vehicle, killing 2 troops, wounding 3 in Pakistan. Patrick Mahomes wins second MVP award ahead of Super Bowl. Prescott pays tribute to late mother while accepting award. And UEFA sends aid money to Champions League final host Turkey. Now news in detail. The FBI searched former Vice President Mike Pence's Indiana home Friday as part of a classified records probe, according to 2 people familiar with the search. The people were not authorized to discuss the law enforcement action and spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity. The search followed the discovery of documents with classified markings by attorneys last month. The FBI had already taken possession of what Pence's lawyer described to the National Archives as a small number of documents that had been inadvertently boxed and transported to Pence's Indiana home at the end of the Trump administration. The search Friday was described as consensual and came after an extensive back and forth between Pence's legal team and the FBI. A member of Pence's legal team was at the home and expected the search to take several hours, according to one of the people familiar with the discussions. That person added that the FBI was being given unrestricted access to the home. Former Vice President Mike Pence has been subpoenaed by the special counsel overseeing investigations into efforts by former President Donald Trump and his allies to overturn the results of the 2020 election, according to a person with direct knowledge of the event. The subpoena to Pence as part of the investigation by special counsel Jack Smith was served in recent days, according to the person, who spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity Thursday to discuss a sensitive issue. The extraordinary scenario of a former vice president potentially testifying against his former boss in a criminal investigation comes as Pence considers launching a 2024 Republican presidential bid against Trump. The two have been estranged since a mob of Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol building on January 6, 2021 in an attempt to stop Democrat Joe Biden's victory. The subpoena, in an aggressive step from a prosecutor who for years led the Justice Department's Public Corruption Section and who oversaw indictments against major political figures. The move sets the stage for a likely executive privilege fight, given Pence's close proximity to Trump for 4 years as major decisions were being contemplated and planned. It is unclear whether efforts to secure voluntary testimony from Pence stalled before the subpoena was issued. Within hours of an Air Force F-22 downing a giant Chinese balloon that had crossed the United States, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin reached out to his Chinese counterpart via a special crisis line, aiming for a quick general-to-general talk that could explain things and ease tensions. But Austin's effort Saturday fell flat when Chinese Defense Minister Wei Feng declined to get on the line, the Pentagon says. China's defense ministry says it refused the call from Austin after the balloon was shot down because the US had not created the proper atmosphere for dialogue and exchange. The US action had seriously violated international norms and set a pernicious precedent, a ministry spokesperson was quoted as saying in a statement issued late Thursday. It's been an experience that's frustrated US commanders for decades when it comes to getting their Chinese counterparts on a phone or video line, as some flaring crisis is sending tensions between the two nations climbing. From Americans' perspective, the lack of the kind of reliable crisis communications that helped get the US and Soviet Union through the Cold War without an armed nuclear exchange is raising the dangers of the US-China relationship now, at a time when China's military strength is growing and tensions with the US are on the rise. Without that ability for generals in opposing capitals to clear things up in a hurry, Americans worry that misunderstandings, false reports, or accidental collisions could cause a minor confrontation to spiral into greater hostilities. With an eye toward the 2024 campaign, President Joe Biden took direct aim at Republicans who have floated cuts to Social Security and Medicare, telling an audience in Florida on Thursday that he would create a nightmare for anyone who dreamed of trying them. Venturing into a state defined by its growing retiree population and status as the unofficial headquarters of the modern-day Republican Party, the president sees a chance to use Social Security and Medicare to drive a wedge between GOP lawmakers and their base of older voters who rely on these government programs for income and health insurance. Biden is trying to lay the groundwork for an expected re-election campaign announcement this spring. Florida is also home to some of his potential biggest Republican rivals during next year's race. White House aides have been using the votes and words of Republican lawmakers to make their case that Social Security and Medicare benefits are under threat, while GOP leaders say their statements are being mischaracterized. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman, who had a stroke during his campaign last year, remained hospitalized and undergoing tests after feeling lightheaded, with tests so far negative for another stroke or seizure, his office said Thursday evening. An MRI at George Washington University Hospital, along with other tests run by doctors, rule out a new stroke, Fetterman's communications director Joe Calvello said in a statement Thursday evening. Fetterman was being monitored with an electroencephalogram, an instrument that measures brainwaves, for signs of a seizure, Calvello said. So far, there are no signs of seizure, but he is still being monitored, he said. Calvello gave no indication about when Fetterman might leave the hospital, but had said late Wednesday that Fetterman was in good spirits and talking with his staff and family. The officer who pulled Tyre Nichols from his car before police fatally beat him never explained why he was being stopped, newly released documents show, and emerging reports from Memphis residents suggest that was common. The Memphis Police Department blasted Demetrius Haley and four other officers as blatantly unprofessional and asked that they be stripped of the ability to work as police for their role in the January 7 beating, according to documents released Tuesday by the Tennessee Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission. They also include revelations that Haley took photographs of Nichols as he lay propped against a police car, then sent the photos to other officers and a female acquaintance. Nichols died 3 days later, the latest police killing to prompt nationwide protest and an intense public conversation about how police treat black residents. Yet what led to it all remains a mystery. A man suspected of injuring two Maryland police officers with gunfire has been taken into custody early Friday after fleeing from the vehicle he had stolen from a detective he shot, authorities said. Federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies surrounded the suspect in a wooded area near a shopping mall in Falston after police used spike strips to disable the stolen vehicle, Hertford County Sheriff Jeffrey Gowler said, and he was taken into custody about 5:45 a.m. Our community is safer with this individual in custody where he belongs, Geller said at a Friday morning news conference. The suspect, earlier identified as David Linthicum, 24, wasn't injured during the arrest and charges were pending, Geller said. He was expected to be transferred to the custody of Baltimore County Police. Authorities believe the suspect had fled with a rifle, so they were searching the area for a weapon, Geller said. When the arrest was made, Geller said the suspect had ammunition with him. Geller earlier said that police found a rifle and a handgun in the recovered vehicle after the suspect fled, but later said only a rifle was left in that vehicle. An officer was shot Thursday night during the search for Linthicum, who authorities said wounded a different officer while firing at police the previous afternoon. Racial tensions in Mississippi echoed in Missouri Thursday as black Democratic lawmakers accused the state's Republican House leadership of racism for shutting down a black lawmaker's speech and passing a bill that could strip power from the black woman elected as prosecutor in St. Louis. The discord in the Missouri House came just days after a similar situation in Mississippi, where black lawmakers denounced the majority-white Republican-led legislature for voting to take power away from local leaders in the predominantly black city of Jackson. Like in Mississippi, Missouri's legislature has a largely white Republican majority. Most of the black lawmakers represent the state's two largest urban areas of St. Louis and Kansas City. Missouri Republicans have made anti-crime legislation a priority this session, often highlighting high crime rates in St. Louis as an impetus. The House passed legislation by a 109-35 vote that would allow Republican Governor Mike Parson to appoint a special prosecutor to handle violent crimes in areas with high homicide rates, such as St. Louis. The bill also would expand mandatory minimum sentences for persistent felony offenders, among other things. A building believed to be the oldest surviving schoolhouse for black children in the U.S. was hoisted onto a flatbed truck and moved a half-mile Friday into colonial Williamsburg, a Virginia museum that continues to expand its emphasis on African American history. Built 25 years before the American Revolution, the original structure stood near the college campus of William and Mary. The two-story pinewood building held as many as 30 students at a time, some of them free black children studying alongside the enslaved. Hundreds of people lined the streets to celebrate its slow-speed trip into the heart of the Living History Museum, which tells the story of Virginia's colonial capital through interpreters and restored buildings. For historians and descendants alike, the Bray School contradicts the belief that all enslaved Americans were uneducated, but the school's faith-based curriculum, created by an English charity, also justified slavery and encouraged students to accept their fate as God's plan. Rihanna is putting in the work ahead of her Super Bowl halftime show, focusing so hard on what she promises will be a jam-packed show that her upcoming birthday and Valentine's Day almost slipped her mind. The set list was the biggest challenge. That was the hardest part, deciding how to maximize 13 minutes but also celebrate. That's what this show is going to be. It's going to be a celebration of my catalog in the best way that we could have put it together, Rihanna said. At a media preview Thursday ahead of Sunday's matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and Kansas City Chiefs, the music superstar and new mom said her appearance, her first live event in 7 years, feels like it could have only been now. Now it's time for global updates. Emergency crews made a series of dramatic rescues in Turkey on Friday, pulling several people from the rubble 4 days after a catastrophic 7.8 magnitude earthquake killed more than 20,000. Temperatures remain below freezing across the large region, and many people have no place to shelter. The government has distributed millions of hot meals, as well as tents and blankets, but is still struggling to reach many people in need. Rescuers pulled several earthquake survivors from the shattered remnants of buildings Friday, including some who lasted more than 100 hours trapped under crushed concrete after the disaster slammed Turkey and Syria and killed more than 22,000 people. The survivors included 6 relatives who huddled in a small pocket under the rubble, a teenager who drank his own urine to slake his thirst, and a 4-year-old boy who was offered a jelly bean to calm him down as he was shimmied out. But the flurry of dramatic rescues, some broadcast live on Turkish television, could not obscure the overwhelming devastation of what Turkey's president called one of the greatest disasters in his nation's history. Entire neighborhoods of high-rise buildings have been reduced to twisted metal, pulverized concrete and exposed walls, and the magnitude 7.8 quake has already killed more people than Japan's Fukushima earthquake and tsunami, with many more bodies undoubtedly yet to be recovered and counted. Russia used strategic bombers, cruise missiles and killer drones in a wave of attacks across Ukraine early Friday, while Moscow's military push that Kiev says has been brewing for days appeared to pick up pace in eastern areas ahead of the one-year anniversary of its invasion. Russian forces have launched 71 cruise missiles, 35 S-300 missiles and 7 Shahid drones since late Thursday, Ukraine's military chief, General Valery Zaluzhny said. Ukrainian forces downed 61 cruise missiles and 5 drones, he added. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who has campaigned for more Western support against Russia's military ambitions, said this is terror that can and must be stopped. Meanwhile, the Kremlin's ground forces were focusing on Ukraine's industrial east, especially the Luhansk and Donetsk provinces that make up the industrial Donbas region, where recent fighting has been most intense, the Ukrainian military said. Moscow-backed separatists have been fighting Ukrainian forces there since 2014. Russian athletes have no place at next year's Paris Olympics while their country's invasion of Ukraine continues. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky told a summit of sports officials from about 30 countries Friday. The International Olympic Committee argues it would be discriminatory to exclude Russia and ally Belarus from sports ahead of the 2024 Paris Games. With qualifying in many sports already underway, the IOC wants athletes from those countries to compete in a neutral capacity without national symbols. While Russia kills and terrorizes, representatives of the terrorist state have no place at sports and Olympic competitions, Zelensky told the summit in an opening address by video link, according to a transcript issued by his office. Zelensky made surprise visits to Britain and France on Wednesday, pushing for fighter jets to battle Russian invaders in a dramatic speech to the British Parliament. South Korea says it will remove the entry restrictions it placed on short-term travelers from China since the start of the year, as officials see the COVID-19 situation in that country as stabilizing. South Korea in early January stopped issuing most short-term visas and its consulates in China, citing concerns about a virus surge in the country and the potential for new mutations. China abruptly eased coronavirus restrictions in December, raising the prospect of millions of Chinese traveling abroad again for the first time in 3 years. South Korea also required all passengers from China, Hong Kong, and Macau to submit proof of negative tests taken with 48 hours before their arrival and put them through tests again once they arrive. Following an antivirus meeting on Friday, the government decided to normalize short-term visa applications at its consulates in China from Saturday. The testing requirements were maintained, but officials say those steps could be relaxed later depending on virus developments. A four-story apartment building in northern Egypt collapsed on Friday, killing at least 2 people and injuring 20 others, authorities said. The building's collapse in the Nile Delta city of Damanhur was preceded by a gas pipe explosion, according to a brief government statement. Search efforts were underway to find those still missing beneath the rubble, while the injured were transported to a nearby hospital, it said. No further details were immediately provided. According to reports in local media, the 2 killed were children. A powerful roadside bomb went off near a vehicle carrying Pakistani security forces in the country's volatile southwest on Friday, killing 2 soldiers and wounding 3, authorities said. Hours later, the separatist Balochistan Liberation Army claimed responsibility for the attack in Kohlu, a district about 300 kilometers east of Quetta, the provincial capital in Balochistan. The group was designated a terrorist organization by the United States in 2019. Balochistan province has seen increasing violence lately, with militant and separatist groups taking responsibility for attacks. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,910.73. The NYSE composite is increased by 82.13 points or 0.52%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,670.98. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 86.63 points or 0.31%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,260.6734. The Shanghai Composite Index is decreased by 9.71 points or 0.30%. Hong Kong stock close price is 21,190.42. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 433.94 points or 2.01%. Bombay stock close price is 60,682.70. The Sensex index is decreased by 123.52 points or 0.20%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Patrick Mahomes dominated the voting for the AP NFL Most Valuable Player award. Now he will try to break the MVP curse. Mahomes, who also won in 2018, easily outdistanced Jalen Hurts, receiving 48 of 50 first-place votes from a nationwide panel of media members who regularly covered the league. He earned 490 points to 193 for Hurts, who got one first-place vote, 26 seconds, 11 thirds, and 10 fourths. Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs face Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl on Sunday. Mahomes thanked the Chiefs organization and his teammates in a video at NFL Honors on Thursday night. The last 9 MVPs to play in the Super Bowl that season are 0-9. Kurt Warner was the last to win both the MVP award and Super Bowl following the 1999 season. Bills quarterback Josh Allen received the other first-place vote, finishing third with 151 points. Bengals QB Joe Burrow placed fourth and Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson came in fifth. Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott used his platform as the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year award recipient for an emotional tribute to his mother, whom he called his moral compass and his inspiration. The two-time Pro Bowl selection lost his mother, Peggy, to cancer in 2013 when he was a quarterback at Mississippi State. He also honored his late brother, Jace, who died by suicide in 2020. My mother was and still is my moral compass, Prescott said while accepting the award Thursday night at NFL Honors. Through my own charitable contributions, I seek to share her strength and courage with the world. Prescott is the fourth Cowboys player to win the award, joining Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, and former teammate Jason Witten. The award, the recipient of which is picked from 32 nominees, one on each team, is given to an NFL player for his community service activities as well as on-the-field success. UEFA gave €200,000 on Friday to help relief work after the earthquake in Turkey, the country that will host the Champions League final in June. The European soccer body also pledged to organize more fundraising activities in the days leading up to the final on June 10 in Istanbul. It is also coordinating work among its 55 member associations to contribute to a disaster relief fund. Initial donations included €150,000 from UEFA to the Turkish Soccer Federation and a combined €50,000 for the UEFA Foundation for Children charity to support two organizations working in the disaster area in southern Turkey and Syria. Moments of silence will be held before games next week in the Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League, UEFA said. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV, and also in all European countries and Australia available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.